Welcome to the Pro Farmer Podcast, your source for what's impacting prices today and your guide to what will impact markets in the weeks ahead. More substance, less fuss. The Pro Farmer Podcast starts now.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Pro Farmer Podcast. Davis Michelson here for you on September the 22nd, 2025. Joining now, Hillary Mason. Hillary, it was quite the week last week. On Friday, we ended under some pressure. It seemed early on in the week that we were going to get, especially on the wheat side, I'm looking at, I guess, specifically, it looked like we were going to get a little bit of support. That faded by the end of the week. December corn futures ended a quarter of a penny higher on Friday. That's as of the end of Friday's session. Um, Soybeans seemed a little disappointed. There was a headline out of the South China Post that mentioned soybeans, and yet soybeans failed to finish the week on a positive note. We were down 12 cents in the November contract there, 10.25 and a half on Friday's close. Why don't we start there with the soybeans? Because the disappointment seems real there. What got into the beans last week, Hillary?
Yeah, I think everyone just got hyped up that China would step in and make a commitment of U.S. soybean purchases, and TikTok was seemingly the main focus there. So, after Trump and Xi Jinping's discussion early Friday morning ended, it became rather clear rather quickly that soybeans were not a focus, and they were not. So that's where the disappointment came from, Davis. So, and we were kind of, everyone just really had their hopes up, and just didn't work out for us. So,
Yeah, and eventually, I'm sure that we'll see China come in and buy some beans. It's definitely in the cards there at some point. It's just a matter of when. Would have been nice to get a little something there. Do you have a sense for what this TikTok is all about? Why is this such a big deal to the Trump administration? I haven't been following it, I'll be honest. Do you have a sense of it at all?
honestly, I don't, Davis.
Yeah.
To me, TikTok, like, my job revolves around farmers and soybeans and corn
Hmm.
and wheat and all, all commodities. Like, I really don't care about TikTok in the grand scheme. And so,
Yeah.
in my opinion, I feel like, this administration should feel the same way, but there may be something there that I'm just not aware of. And I'm sure that's the case. But it would really be nice if we could focus on U.S. agriculture and trade of U.S. products. So,
Well, and maybe you're hitting on something there too that I don't know if I can speak for the minds of traders. I'm not sure I would want to get in there necessarily, but the fact that something as important as vital to this nation, to the center of this nation, as soybeans, kind of left off the table. Instead, we're going to talk about TikTok. Maybe it's a bigger deal than we realize. I guess we'll have to just wait our turn apparently in negotiations. How'd you like the corn market? Let's flip over to corn instead.
you know, um, corn's is really hanging in there. And
Yeah.
funds continue to, shuck their short positions. And so, the corn market feels okay. But I mean, if this soybean market continues to drag it lower, that could be pretty detrimental, and things could shift rather quickly. We saw that earlier in the year, Davis. We went from a massive net long to a net short in a pretty quick amount of time, after President Trump announced the reciprocal tariffs in early April. So things could shift, but it feels pretty good right now. We really need soybeans to kind of hang in there.
Yeah.
Argentina came out this morning, Davis. I don't know if you saw, but they have a zero export tax through the end of October. So I think that's kind of why soybeans are extending lower today. Just probably a little hangover from Friday as well. So,
Back me up just a little bit here. Did you say shorts are shucking
yeah,
positions
you know
out of
that.
the corn market? I love that.
Corn shucks.
I love the
Not a
visual of that.
lot.
What I would love even more is if they were shucking their shorts and adopting long positions instead, but we haven't seen that yet, have we?
Not yet, not quite yet, but seasonally, if history repeats itself, meaning year ago history, they should continue into it not long, especially by the first of the year. But we will see. It's a different year, different things going on, of course. So we shall see. So
for both corn and soybeans, we're coming up to harvest time here. We're into harvest, I would imagine, and historically, it's been an important period for the corn and soybean markets here. A lot of questions that I'm hearing out in farm country. What are we going to do with all this corn? Where are we going to put all these beans? I've got storage on farm, but that's going to fill up quick with these humongous yields that everyone's expecting. Now, I know that those have been trimmed in for various reasons across the Midwest, but nonetheless, still the expectation of record yields here. What do you expect through harvest season here? What do we need to be keeping in mind on corn and soybeans as those combines roll, Hillary?
it's a great question. I mean, I would definitely keep an eye on soybean basis. That's kind of been the topic of late, of course. If you cannot hold soybeans, and storing soybeans, I could really talk all day about this, Davis. I'm not sure this. but but storing soybeans aren't always a great proposition, just because there's so much shrink. But I mean, I would definitely be proactive with getting basis set, just because as harvest rolls on, supplies obviously going to grow. And if you're in an area where there are processors, you're going to have, more opportunities to lock in better basis. Fortunately, I'm in one of those areas, Davis. So a lot of farmers around here are pretty fortunate. But yeah, keep an eye on soybean basis. Really corn too, for that matter. Although I will say, demand's good enough on the corn side, that it should stay pretty strong. What worries me are river levels right now. They're starting to drop. It's so dry. I'm sure, you've been talking a lot about the rapid onset drought in eastern and lower Midwest. And so that could really affect barge freight, and make basis not so lovely. So yeah, definitely keep an eye on basis levels. And two, just if you have to move stuff and you need cash, like just, lock in prices, hopefully, at a profitable level.
Yeah. Well, we don't have to spend a whole lot of time on wheat, but it did seem like there was a pretty decent setup, and I was a little disappointed with the way the winter wheat contracts performed last week. Some pressure on the U.S. dollar that usually helps at least a little bit here. Just any quick thoughts on the wheat?
Yeah, after the interest rate decision at midweek last week, it seemed like, the dollar rebounded and, wheat just kind of said, ugh, okay, I give, and also too, there's enough technical pressure overhead that, we really need a pretty strong catalyst in order to send that wheat market higher. It is so overdone that it could happen, it could be a very small catalyst, but we're going to need something, I think, to get it kind of off its tail. So.
Yeah. We've got a whole week of days ahead of us here. Would you care to weigh in with some predictions on the livestock market? The cattle complex has been all over the place. Ended Friday on a positive note, with the October live cattle up $1.20. October feeders up $2.37 to $354.10. Where do you see us going this week, Hillary? Would you care to guess?
Yeah, I gotta think that it stays pretty strong. Just with USDA's cattle on feed report on Friday, it's continue to show, supplies are tight, obviously. But also too, this morning, the USDA released in a press release on Sunday that they have confirmed a new case of New World screwworm, 70 miles from the U.S.-Mexico border. So that's probably gonna hop things up a little bit. I gotta think this week. So
that gets a little close to home there, 70 miles from the border.
Yeah, a little close for comfort. So
yeah. Well, Hillary, we appreciate you. We know you'll keep an eye on it, and I can't wait to talk again. That's Hillary Mason on the Pro Farmer Podcast. Come right back with Spencer Langford.
Hey everyone, Davis Michelson here, and if you're one of the listeners without access to Pro Farmer's daily market reports and policy insights, this message is for you. Right now, you can start a free trial to Pro Farmer, unlocking the same profit-boosting information that farmers have trusted for over 50 years. Sign up online at tryprofarmer.com. No credit card needed. Visit tryprofarmer.com to sign up and get more details and updates on the topics we're discussing today, plus much, much more.
Welcome back to the Pro Farmer Podcast. Glad to have you along. We're gaining some perspective here. A good talk with Hillary Mason there. And Spencer Langford. Hillary and I just touched on the wheat market just a little bit. But I mean, if I'm looking here in the wheat, exports have been pretty strong, and yet it seems like a very lackluster price performance on display here. What do you make of it, Spencer?
Yeah, I actually wrote up a little article, did some research on wheat exports this year. We just wrapped up the first quarter of the marketing year for wheat, that's June through August. And wheat exports through that period have been the highest since the 2017-2018 crop year. Um, and then also, if we look at what USDA is forecasting based off of that pretty strong performance so far, it's uh, would end up being the highest amount of wheat exports on record since 2020 to 21 crop year, which uh, for those of us that remember, that was a pretty good time for wheat prices. I kind of pulled up um, the December winter wheat contracts for this day back in 2021. Wheat prices were $7.05 on the futures market. And in the following year in 2022, they also climbed and they reached a high of $9.10 on today. So if you're looking at wheat prices right now, you're probably confused that they are even allowed to go that high. We're looking right now at about 517. So if we're seeing exports that are so strong, I kind of wanted to dig into the why of why aren't prices following that same trend?
Yeah, that's my
And there
question
are a
as
few,
well. Yeah.
yeah, there are a few main factors that I want to point to. Obviously, anybody who was marketing wheat around those years of 21 and 22 knows that the war between Russia and Ukraine broke out early 22, and that just had a huge factor on the market. They grow a lot of wheat over there on the world scale, and it was a huge shock to the market. Obviously, that war is still ongoing, but it's not quite as fresh. Things are maybe a little easier to operate. That's a huge, I guess, shaking up of things that we're not necessarily seeing. And actually, if you go and look at the statistics that we have on supply on the world level, production is about 5% higher than it was in the 21 to 22 crop year. And even just comparing what USDA has forecasted for 25-26 crop production, we're up over 16% in the United States alone. So there's a pretty big supply issue building, I think, on the wheat side. Another statistic that I always like to look at is the stocks to use ratio. Compared to that 21-22 crop year, we are up about 7% on the world level. So that's kind of why you're seeing wheat prices that have been lagging so much despite the strong demand for U.S. wheat. Um, it's not getting helped a lot from reports coming out of the southern hemisphere. Uh, Pretty much all I've seen so far is people in Australia, people in Argentina who are reporting pretty good moisture. They think that they'll have a pretty good stay into winter wheat here soon. So obviously oversupply, um, that's kind of been the big anchor weighing down on wheat so far.
Well, and I thought, and I mentioned it to Hillary as well, I thought maybe we'd get a little help from some pressure on the US dollar early last week. It did help. Um, I guess one question I would have you been able to identify maybe seasonal windows of opportunity that we can maybe look forward to, that we can market for? Um, it seems like planting is probably going on as scheduled. There's some beneficial rains out in the Central Plains, out in wheat country right now. Give us something to hang on to here, buddy.
Yeah, that is something as well. I mean, even at the U.S. level, looking forward to the upcoming crop year. We're hearing pretty good moisture levels to be planting into, as long as you don't get too much rain. That might be one thing that works in our favor is more rain is on the way for sure. But yeah, typically for wheat, we if you go back and look at price action where the price started at the start of September and October, and then look at the end of the month, wheat is about 60% of the time will end October up higher than it started. So that is generally a slightly more favorable time to market wheat. Obviously, that means that 40% of the time you still see a decrease. It's not a guaranteed thing by any means, but if we are to there's an opportunity for some strength just based on seasonal patterns, if nothing else.
We'll take that, Spencer. I really appreciate that. Higher by the end of October, 60% of the time. A 60-40, I guess if that's what we've got in front of us, we'll look forward to that and hope for the best. Spencer Langford from Pro Farmer, I appreciate your time this morning, and I appreciate you tuning in for the Pro Farmer podcast. For all of us, it's Davis Michaelson.
Thanks for joining us. We'll return next week with another episode of the Pro Farmer Podcast. And remember, everything talked about today is updated throughout the week on ProFarmer.com and in this Friday's Pro Farmer newsletter.